out to us for finally making it happen.
Oh my God. But that
It's
just goes to
hard
show,
though.
like,
I was literally gonna say it's
our,
like the amount of time, what like free days that the guys have, like so it like speaks to their schedule on top of just you and I also being able to coordinate. And so it's
and
like
two kids each
indicative.
on top. Like,
Exactly right.
oh my God. Anyway, I'm
For
very happy
sure.
we're here because I have so many questions for you. And I made my little coffee here, so I'm all ready. It's like
So
a coffee
cute.
date.
I, I only have tea, but that I'm trying to do
Oh,
less caffeine, but it's fine. It still
that's
counts.
good for you. That's my next thing. Less caffeine is my next thing. I drink like 3 coffees a day. I'm just like
I feel
vibing
like
all
it's
day.
necessary.
Ugh.
I'm just like buzzing. I love it.
Literally. Okay, so we are back with the real MFPs after a while, but we are here to stay. Tune in because today I'll be chatting with Bria Clemmons, sports lawyer, entrepreneur, twin mom, and overseas basketball wife. I cannot wait to pick your brain about life, your story, and the little things, everyday things that make you happy. And thank
Mhm.
you for being here.
I'm so excited to finally talk. I've admired you in the past, just seeing all the work that you do too. So I'm glad that we finally, one, got to cross paths in such a cool country, much less find time to do this. So thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm very happy. Same to you. Same goes back to you. I've been eyeing you for a while.
For
It
sure.
was so crazy when I was walking to the bathroom in Japan, in Tokyo, and you just stopped. I was like, oh my God, you're here. Like,
Yeah, I was like, I know you. I was like, I know that face.
I love this is probably one of the best things that happen unlike in this life when basketball life when
Same.
you like oh, okay. So I would like to start off with like just a little bit of your background. So
Sure.
I, at the same time as our listeners, get to know you. And
Of course.
so first, I called it a WAG CV, but basically, I would love to hear your and your husband's story. And
Sure.
where did you guys travel around the globe? So like, where have you lived so far?
Yeah, so I'm honestly the worst at making long stories short, so I'll do my best. But I'm originally from Chicago. My husband is from Michigan. We met in college at the University of Iowa. He obviously was there playing basketball. I was there pursuing journalism. And so I played sports in high school, but was very, very bad. I wasn't bad, I was clumsy. And so I tore my ACL. And so I was like, yeah, let me
Oh
set
no.
this one out. And so went to school for sports journalism. Um, the more that I kind of reported and told stories in sport, and kind of the more I advanced in that field, the more I realized that there were not many people who looked like me in the decision making rooms. And when I say look like me, not only skin color but also gender. So I began just really advocating for women in sport and just racial diversity and equity in sport in general. And so I was like, hey, I really want to fix some of these issues, not just tell stories about them. And that's why I decided to go to law school. I went to law school at the University of Iowa as well. My first year of law school was Anthony's first year overseas. And so he was playing in Vienna at the time. After that, he was in Kazakhstan. After that, Monaco, Bosnia, Turkey, and now here we are in Japan. And sprinkled in a little bit of Spain and Italy in random seasons too. But we've really kind of just trekked the globe. And it's nice. We've been best friends first and foremost before anything, which I feel like has helped. We can talk about some of these points later because I know people are like, oh, like, how do you do it? And like one of the things is having a supportive partner, and having a supportive partner, it sounds cliche, but that helps in the sense that like we've literally watched each other build this career brick by brick, each of our careers. And so like I've watched him hustle and grind for it and vice versa. And so it's like you have a different level of respect and esteem perhaps for the person who you are literally cheering on because you've seen what they've had to endure mentally, just challenge wise and all that. And so we met in college and been hanging out ever since. Oh, I
That's
guess I
amazing.
didn't tell the other part. So that's our backstory. And then um we were together for a while before we had kids, which was also nice. But the twins will be 4 this year, but they're 3 right now. So we had twins 3 years ago, which was was and still is wild to me. And at the time I was working um, remotely in the States at a law firm, basically. So I did the classic, TV lawyer, big law firm thing where they suck the life out of you.
Oh
And it
boy.
wasn't great. And it obviously wasn't conducive to a life being on the road with basketball. And so around the same time that I decided to step away from traditional practice was also around the time that I got pregnant with the twins. And so I paused my career at that point to dive fully into marriage, motherhood, and just life on the move. And so then within the past year or two, maybe 2 years, I've ended up developing my own sports practice, like truly organically, I suppose. And I say organically in the sense that like I did not set out to, build this sports firm and help people do all these things. It's in my nature to be a problem solver, I suppose. And so that's how I landed here. But it's been fun now, kind of venturing into entrepreneurship, not only because it gives our family the flexibility we need, but also too because it challenges me in ways that I didn't even know like I could do myself. And so it's me watching myself grow up through marriage, through motherhood, because of marriage, because of motherhood. And so it's been definitely challenging, but so rewarding.
So first, I already have so many questions out of interest because I know I've kind of transitioned from not working to then working a
Yeah,
little bit to then, and it's like it's tough because at
yeah,
the same time when you want to be the best mom you can and the best wife you can, then you also have that like I feel like
yes,
I really need for me the sense of achievement
hmm,
be, kind of sounds a bit selfish, but like for me, it's so
yeah, of
important.
course.
That's like literally what one of my building blocks of my own happiness. And I feel like, how did you go from,
Hmm.
the traditional law to law, like being in the law
Yeah,
firm to then
yeah.
to your own thing?
I'm glad you asked that question because in within that question touches on what you were speaking about, and so that's why I always give the caveat that like yes, I have my own firm, but not because I'm cool, because I'm selfish. Like selfish in the sense that I was really struggling in marriage and motherhood in terms of giving my all to other people who I love, who I wouldn't do it any other way. But I did not do a good job of finding an outlet for myself in the midst of that. And so me starting my own practice happened because I was like itching to get back to something that felt fulfilling to me. And so for the first question that I remember asking myself though, because I did feel a bout of guilt for it too, because I'm like, man, I'm watching there are women out here who are genuinely fulfilled by motherhood, and here I am sitting with like two amazing beautiful kids, and why is this not enough, quote unquote? Why is this not enough to make me feel fulfilled? Why is this not enough to, you know, make me feel like I'm being productive or achieving anything? Why is marriage, or excuse me, why is motherhood not an achievement? And
This
so
is
that
like,
was
oh, speaking my thoughts, and that is like, you know
yes,
what? Before you actually, we meet. Sorry, I'm just gonna just
do it.
tell you my thoughts a little bit. Like, I feel like when you meet women who are completely fulfilled with motherhood, and God, I
Yep,
love them, and
same,
I'd love to be one of them.
same.
But then it's kind of like you can't say, "Hey, I'm not." You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm not like that. Like, it's kind of
Yes,
a thing, like an iffy situation, sort of. You can't really
I
say, "Hey,
totally
like."
agree
But
because
then you're
it
speaking
feels,
my words right now.
yeah, so it feels one condescending to women who are fulfilled by motherhood because it comes across as like, oh, it
It's not
seems as
enough.
though you're
Like,
trivializing motherhood. And as
mhm.
two people who are welly informed about what motherhood requires, there's that of course is not our intention. Like motherhood in and of itself is a full-time job. And so then for you as a person who doesn't feel fulfilled by it, it either can come across as condescending or it can come across as you don't care about the motherhood thing. And so that also was hard for me because of the message that it sent either to other people, but more importantly, I also remember struggling. Like I don't want my husband to feel like I didn't like our life, because I know how hard he works for our family as well. And so it's like also other people, other women in this situation feel fulfilled by the role of marriage, by the role of motherhood. And so it's just made me feel like one is something, am I not seeing something that I should be appreciating more? But kind of the place that I'm at with it now is like I God made me this way. Literally, like, the ambition that I have aside from motherhood is not in competition with it. And I think a lot of times when the conversation is had, motherhood, it's either motherhood or the other thing that you love. And for some people, their entire plate literally is full. Like, so Anthony and I make fun of him when we have dinner. He'll have like a protein, rice, and then vegetables, we'll say. I'm the type of person who like literally eats all my food in proportion. So I'll eat a little bit of meat, I'll eat a bit of protein, or excuse me, I'll eat a little bit of all of them. So by the end of the meal, like I've got a perfect pairing left. He eats all of the sides first, and then he eats all the meat first, and then the sides. And I'm like, the point of having the meal together is like the flavors, and like, you know what I mean. And so I think when I think about my role as a mother, and it's not that I don't enjoy the meat on my plate, it's not that I don't enjoy the sides, but like I'm choosing in this season what's gonna give me the most fulfillment first, so that I can be a good mom, so that I can be a good wife, so that, because if I show up to marriage, if I show up to motherhood with resentment, with bitterness, with a lack of self, I can't. It's only like it's only so long before they're getting like that leftover version of me. And so one, it forces self awareness, and it also forces quote unquote balance, a word I hate, but balance in the sense that it makes you evaluate today, what do I need? Does my husband need? What do my children need? And then how can I best meet those needs? And when I say best, I mean most efficiently in terms of energy, in terms of mood, because that's the other thing. I'm a grinder, and so I'm always of the mindset like, gotta do it, gotta, like, whatever needs to be done, you gotta do it. Versus how can I do it happily? Like, how can I do it in a positive mood? How can I do it with joy? How can, like, and if that means that yesterday I needed to go to bed at 8 and not 9, like, those are the sacrifices I will have to make sure that I can show up. And I think a lot of times when you meet women who pursue motherhood and a career outside of motherhood, there's the notion that like something is lacking. Either they're like killing it at work and terrible at home. And for me, that was also something I didn't want. I didn't want my family to suffer because I have ambition, because I have dreams. Like, and so I've found ways to make sure that I'm checking in with myself, being vocal about that with myself, with my husband, because at the end of the day, like, we are a team too. And so like that's what I'd mentioned before. Like, so much of what I'm able to do is because he is helpful too, and that's vice versa, right? Like, we know as basketball wives, like, so much of their career, I won't say it's made possible, but like is enabled or facilitated by certain sacrifices that their partner makes. And so it took 3 years for me to kind of get to a place where I felt comfortable even being honest with myself. I say this all the time. I love my children. I don't love motherhood. And I think the two can be true. Motherhood is quite literally a role, and being a mom is not a role to me. Like, that's organic, that's natural, that's what God called me to, is to love and raise my children. But doing that as a vocation is not fulfilling to me. And I am doing a better job about vocalizing that, being honest about it, and not feeling shame or condemnation because of it.
That's so right. Like the word shame, I feel like that's what I felt like I would guilt myself. You know, mom guilt comes
Yes.
in any way, but then I
Yep.
feel like for me in the beginning, and I was like having the thoughts of maybe,
Hmm.
I want to achieve something besides. It's like how can I, why am I like this? Why is it not enough, sort of,
Yes, exactly.
but
Hmm.
like you feel guilt for that too, and it's sad. like
I
but
100% agree. And that's also not to say that like I figured it out. Like, literally, I will have a day like today where I'm like, okay, I feel all right about the way things are going, and then tomorrow I'm back in shambles, like, oh, I feel so guilty, da 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 da, whatever. But I also do think that it's important for your children to see you do something that you love, and if that's only motherhood, that's okay. Not only, but if motherhood is that thing, like, you have a child now who grows up and say, I watch my mom be so happy because she loved to show up for us every day. And then if you are a child who grows up in a home like ours, because I watched my mom work, not because she loved what she did either, because she had to. And so, like, there's that balance too, where it's like, okay, many of us probably watched our parents work growing up. And I think at least now as millennials, we know enough to say, like, if I'm going to work, I want it to be worthwhile. And so that's the other thing that gives me solace, I guess, is that like I'm not just working to like be defiant or feel like I need my free time. Like I'm working because there's some quite literally something else on my heart that feels that needs to be completed and need to be done, that needs to be achieved, I guess, in the world. And that's okay.
That's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
very, very happy I heard your take on this. It's beautiful.
Thank
I know
you.
that you mentioned balance and like not liking, and I don't think that I agree with you. I don't think that it's possible to have like a balance or call it a balance,
Hmm.
because I feel like
Correct.
whenever, one day maybe this would take more of your time and the other one less, and then you sort of
That's right. Exactly.
like kind of going in between them. So it's like a
Hmm.
balance over a month, maybe, if you can call it balance,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Rather than a
It's a
day that
flow.
is
It's just a
divided
flow.
into things.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Flow. I like that word way better. So how do you make your daily, weekly schedule and things flow?
So this is something literally last night I was talking to my husband about because I'm the worst at it. He's much better at it, and we were talking about just the way that our brains work differently on top of like he's like I've had the benefit of basketball for X amount of years where quite literally your entire life is scheduled down to the minute for you. And so he's like that is kind of like ingrained in me. And I told him it's the opposite for me. So I went to school for journalism, which means we didn't have tests. We had to write papers, which means your final exam is a paper. You have all semester to write it. So like literally, like me going through life prior to kids, prior to marriage was just like la 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 la. This is fun. Like I do what I want today. I do what I want tomorrow. As long as the things that I know need to get done are accomplished, life is great. Whereas now, like we were just talking about when we opened, my husband has one day off this week, which means that I have to get either a hair appointment, a nail appointment. I have to actually work. Like or I only have 2 hours today that are all mine. Am I going to take a nap? Am I going to take a shower? Like all the things that moms and wives have to balance in your mind about how am I going to best use this time? And so when it comes to balance, it sounds cliche, but like communication is the primary one because like, yes, we know that while he's at practice, I'll be with the kids, but maybe that means, hey, don't take 4 hours in the ice bath after because I need you to come back home so that I can have this meeting or do this or whatever. And so part of it is communication, but then also respect for each other's career, right? Like I've seen situations where women are trying to pursue something that's meaningful to them and it maybe is trivialized by their partner or spouse in terms of like, oh, this is just a hobby that like she has or that she wants to do. So one, making sure that it's clear how important it is to you so that other people respect and esteem it in the same way, because if I am dismissive or kind of making small what I do, so if someone says like, oh, what do you do, this is something I've had to work on. I'm like, oh, I'm just a lawyer, do a little lawyer thing on the side, and they're like, wait a minute. And so it's like one, taking pride in what you do, whether that's working out and taking that seriously or like working and taking it seriously. So one, taking it seriously, communicating with whoever it is that's helping you with that. We don't have family here, but sometimes people have family who help out. And so just making sure that there's like clear cut plan in terms of this is what I'm going to use this time for. And there have been many times where like I set aside the time to do XYZ and I don't end up doing that. And so the other piece of it that's important is giving yourself grace. And that is goes a little bit to what we were talking about before in terms of shame and guilt. But I've had to learn to like let myself off the hook quicker and easier than I used to, because I used to basically shame and condemnation used to be a motivator almost. So it's negative motivation is what I call it, where it's like, oh, you didn't get enough done yesterday. You need to wake up at 5 a.m. even though you know you've got a long day with the kids. Da, 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 da. Like I would be doing things out of like debt to myself rather than just saying, hey, I missed what I was aiming for yesterday. Today's a new day. I'm going to try again and like moving on rather than staying stuck in what I did or didn't get done. And so communication, planning, yeah, and giving yourself grace, I think have helped me immensely. Because like you said, mom guilt comes like irrespective of whether you have a career outside the home or you don't. And so I feel like the foundation of not carrying all that with you is learning how to, yeah, let it roll off of you quicker, and then bouncing back like sooner.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
listening and I'm agreeing, and at the same time I'm learning, and I feel like it's a learning curve every day
It
because I'm
is.
pretty bad with things like uh taking time for me. Like I
Mm-hmm.
understand that the same frog has 1 day off a week. So then,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like I don't know if it's I'm just being self-destructive or I'm just being empathetic. But I'm like, oh my god, he just played 2 games, and
Mm-hmm.
you know plays a lot. Like he plays 35-minute average, so it's like it's hard. So I wake up and I'm like, oh my god, this is the only day that I
Mm-hmm.
can do something. But at the same time, deep down, it's like, oh my god, but this dude's like working
Yeah,
his
yeah.
butt off, you know, and he must be
100%.
so tired and sore, and then I'm then in like between those feelings, and whether I'm like there, let him sleep in and take the kids, but then I'm like, oh my god, I want to go to the gym so bad, and then I want to spend time with him because
And
well,
that's
you know, like that's another thing because it's like, oh, you don't
facts.
have a job 9 to 5, you don't leave the house,
Yeah, yeah.
so you technically spend time with your husband, but no, you don't spend time with. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that, you know. And
That's
then if
so,
every
so
time he
true.
comes home, I have to do something what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
or work or whatever, then it's like we don't get to hang out, and I'm like, I
Yes.
don't want us to be roommates. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
and it's
Literally,
like
just like,
I'm literally
mhm.
torn in between that all day, every day. I'm like,
And
and
even
then
that,
when
like
I'm, you
that
know,
in and of itself is not like physical work, but that's mental work. So that by the end of the day, I'm also drained because I've been battling in my head all day long. And so when I mentioned communication, Anthony and I also talk about this, like communication gets a bad rap because I feel like it's like we overuse the word communication, but he and I specify communicating not just to verbalize, but to actually like come to a conclusion and resolution. So it's like I'm communicating not just to vent, but because I want to actually find value in having had this conversation. And so in a situation like what you were just describing, because I feel I have felt that way too. One, I will go back to the part that I mentioned where, yes, because I have had these same thoughts. I'm like, oh my gosh, he just came back from battle on the court and now he's tired. He has a day off. He wants to rest, which can be true. So he can rest, but I can like what he's doing is important. What I'm doing is important. So like I say I'm an and girl, not an or. And so it's not what he's doing is important or it's not, or mine is more important. It's his is important and mine is important. One, we both have to treat it that way. And so that goes to the point where I'm saying you have to take the things that you do seriously. And like you said, if the thing that today is going to just help me stay level headed is going to the gym, I need to make sure that get your sleep, rest, like really fully rest. I'll make breakfast for you, whatever that looks like. When you are up and ready, I need at least 3 hours to go to the gym, get a cup of coffee, and drink it in peace. And like literally saying that to him the day before or whenever, so that one, he can anticipate that, and two, you can honor that without feeling guilty. Because that's the other thing. What good is it to go do something for yourself if while you are doing it, you are carrying the guilt, shame, and weight of still being present in the moment? Like, don't, like you said, don't self destruct in that way where it becomes counterproductive for you to take self care, I suppose. And so he and I, one, we are very clear about that, like literally before bed. And then we reiterate, I'm like, tomorrow, this is the plan. Is that still fine with you? Or do you think you need more rest? Like it's, it's about planning, but also staying flexible enough to like accommodate each other's needs in that moment. Because maybe he says, hey, I feel fine. I actually don't even need to sleep in. If you want to leave earlier, do that. And so like there have been days like that too, or he'll be like, hey, stay out the whole day, we're good. Or come home, things are wild right now. Like it's me being ready and flexible to respond to their needs while also understanding that like they are fine and have made space for this. Um, and then the other thing is prioritizing basically like intimacy in marriage. And I don't mean like physical intimacy, but just like relationship, right? Like at the end of the day, like you two are the reason that you have a family right now to even like feel like, well, it's me. And so it's like, I also have to remind myself to nurture this core unit. And so for you guys, I think you have to find the thing that makes sense for you, because sometimes for us, it's literally, we watch like, there's a couple shows we watch on either Netflix or YouTube. So he's better than I am. I will start 10 Netflix shows and like watch them all just randomly. I told you I'm chaotic. He's like the neat organizer one. And I'm just like, whoa, let's do what we want to do today. But he like, let's watch one show at a time. And so like every evening after he comes home from practice, after the kids are down, like from basically like 9 to maybe 11 or 8 to 10, we know we're going to at least get one episode in of our show. And like, that's our bonding. And until we can like hang out and like go do things on a day off or like maybe on a break, like that has to be enough. And it is, you know what I mean? Like just because Anthony love languages, he's a presence person. And so he's very much just like, as long as you're around, like I'm good. That for me fills my love cup. And for me, I'm mostly like I give like physical touch. So like I'll be around, but I'll walk by and just like pat your head, like you good. And like that's my way of being like, hey, I'm here. And so one, learning each
That
other
is
in that
so
way,
neat.
like acknowledge. And so one, just being aware of what each other needs, what you need, and then finding a way to, it's like maintenance, I guess, in the maintenance in the middle until you make it to the milestones, which would be trips and vacations and time out of the house, basically, even if it's like an excursion around Japan for the day. Like, yeah, so like maintenance in the middle until you make it to the milestones. That's, I think, what's important and been beneficial for our marriage.
Absolutely, and that's very well put. We have similar things that, a little show after the kids are down, and sometimes we stop the show and we just talk. Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like things like with kids, it's okay. Life has changed like completely. You know,
So
it's you as a
much.
couple, and then you enter the kids, and then the kids are growing up, and Mav doesn't stop talking, and God love him. But whoa, I wish like for a minute, just wow, just keep it down. Like,
1 second. Literally from the time the eyeballs are open until they're closed, words are happening.
oh
And I'm
my
just like,
God, it's insane. And now Millie, she is 1.5, so she's repeating everything. So it's literally like a
oh,
one goes, another goes, one goes, another goes.
it's like a parrot.
Oh my God. Truly, I'm like, I feel like
Yeah,
overstimulation is not a word for me that's suits anymore. Like it's
enough.
over and beyond. So I feel like, Brock, I've not even spoken to you today. I'm not coming in like a
Yeah,
mean way, but I'm like, we haven't
sure.
even talked because all we've
Yeah,
been listening to and preoccupied is with the
just
noise, you know?
noise.
And then we
Mm-hmm.
sit down and I'm like,
100%.
oh my God, so how are you feeling
The
today?
silence, yes. It's like, oh yeah, hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is good.
Totally
So,
feel that.
yeah, and then, what we see through social media during the day that like we wanted each other to see, or we send it to each other,
Hmm.
but then we look through
Yes,
it
yeah,
together.
same.
Like we talk about like
Like debrief
cars
all
and
of them.
things and like,
Yes.
like it just
Yeah.
things. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
this is very nice. Like finally.
Yes. I
But yeah,
totally
I
agree.
absolutely agree. And then days off are like a treat, whatever you
Hmm.
make it to
For
be,
sure.
it's like a cherry on top. I love your insights, and I hope that
Thank
a
you.
lot of girls listening who are in the same situation would too. I was very surprised actually when I do this little there and there I do this little thing on Instagram when I ask like about like what kind of questions you would want to know and all these things, and I
Hmm.
got it's not only basketball women who are listening, and it's not like my podcast is big, but
Hmm.
I've gotten a few like football, soccer. So it's like obviously same
Ah.
kind of situation. Then girls who have husbands who are musicians, who
Mm,
is
that's
actually
exactly right.
similar. Like it didn't even,
Yes.
okay, sports, like, yeah, fine. But it didn't even click to me, that there's so
So,
many people who
so true.
actually live similar lives. So I hope, I love your insights a lot.
Thank
I
you.
did want to,
I met someone. Go ahead.
sorry, no, go ahead.
I'll say I met someone who made me aware of the same thing. Her husband is a musician. And then so it's military families, musicians or artists. And then yeah, across sport is are people who I've and like diplomats. So like expat families. So basically like my dad is an ambassador or something like that. And so it's like or my husband works for the embassy or whatever. And so it's actually you'd be surprised how many people maybe relate to what we experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go too far from, I wanted to really talk about your businesses. And I know your husband was, well, you had a fever break and you went on a business trip. And me, I'm like, I really want to hear all about it. And tell me, please, about your calling and about what
Sure.
makes you feel like achieved things.
So I remember, and it goes back to basically this lifestyle, and also caveat because we mentioned it earlier in the show. Being selfish, I think it's a bad rap. Also, I think there are 100% times in life where being quote unquote selfish is warranted. By definition, selfish just means choosing self. Which in what world is that bad inherently? I don't know. But anyway, I say that because a lot of the things that I do today started as like me trying to solve my own problem, not me trying to like be some like world changing, person who's done amazing things. And of course that is at the core of my personality. But I just remember I was maybe 2 months postpartum with the twins. We had just moved to Turkey. We were in Ankara, Turkey. It was it was only maybe the second season full time overseas that I had spent. And literally as soon as we got there, he had to leave for a 10-day road trip. So here I am with two 2-month olds, like just in a brand new country, literally no idea of anything, fighting for my life, just like what in the world. And so I'm like, man, it would have been so helpful if like when we first got here, there was like a little welcome box with, toilet paper, fresh toothbrushes, fresh sheets, a list of information saying, hey, here's the nearest coffee shop. Here are grocery stores that are frequented, like just the basics. And that's not only moving overseas, just anytime you move anywhere that you've never been before, whether that's a different state or different city in your own country. It's like there are basic things that you need when you first move somewhere. And so it started as me being like, it would be really cool if there was some company, some organization that existed basically to support the like logistics and lifestyle of basketball families. Because I'm like, surely we aren't the first people to move abroad for basketball. Like I was just very surprised by the lack of resource and infrastructure information wise, for something that is quite predictable. Like the team is here, you have people coming in every single year. It's like, this should be more efficient, basically in my brain. I'm like, this should be more efficient, and it's not. Let's do something about it. And so it started as I created a company called Surround. As it started as just like a local, maybe even just like community, like in network community thing, like the same way you got the basketball wives groups or Facebook groups or whatever it may be. Just trying to do that kind of on a more grand scale. Grand meaning encompassing all the countries where you have basketball families. And so it started as that. But the more people that I came into contact with in trying to build that resource network, the more I realized that there were so many, athletes who needed support, whether it was like reading their contracts or negotiating issues that they had with their agents, like business issues basically that come up, because there's also a lack of infrastructure for athletes as professionals just in general. Like, so there was logistics issues and lifestyle issues, and then there were what I call labor issues relating to the field of work for athletes. And so those are kind of the three categories that I ended up bumping into people needing help with. And then from there, met a lot of also either athletes or wives who wanted to start their own companies, start their own businesses, wanted advising or consulting in the process, or like actual concrete help launching startups, launching brands, managing startups, whatever that might be. And so kind of just not only the information piece, but the actual infrastructure to be a business owner, because with this lifestyle, you've got a lot of ambitious women who either leave careers behind or, stumble into some talents that they didn't know they had. And now I do designing. I sell like the merchandise. Like these are hobbies that I'm finding that I'm good at, that keep me occupied and help me feel fulfilled while I'm here supporting my spouse or person I'm in a relationship with. And so I ended up meeting more and more women who, I help athletes too, of course, but my passion, I suppose, is primarily for the partners, because that only is not something I'm familiar with, but I think that there's a lack of not only like resource, but just like attention paid to people in our role. And so, yeah, my firm has essentially kind of evolved into me helping athletes and their wives build and start businesses. And so I took a business trip recently because there's a law firm in the States that's interested in maybe allowing me to join their firm and bring my kind of what I've built over the past 2 years with me. Because also too, you also have to think about life after basketball, which is a different conversation for a different day. But me trying to be mindful of how can I best support my family in the future starts now, right? And so it's not only me showing up as a mom, showing up as a wife, but it's like, how can I help talk about give my husband a break? Like the same way that he gave space for me to explore my interests and kind of pursue the things that I was passionate about without the pressure of like, hey, you have to make money doing what you do. That's a gift, and I don't want to take that for granted. And so as I've worked to build this company, it's primarily also been with like my husband in mind in the future. Like whenever you want to be done doing what you love, I want to give you the freedom to do that without feeling like all the pressure's on me financially to take care of our family once I'm done doing what I'm doing. And so part of it is like reciprocity and like my gift to my family. And then the other part of it is me pursuing the passions that I have. And then the other piece of it is me supporting people who I know quite literally what they're experiencing. And I'm very intimate and aware of the problems that they have because I too have them. And so it's kind of come full circle in that way. And it's been really, really fun. I've gotten to use like my background in journalism to kind of investigate some of the issues and problems that exist, or infrastructure wise, or have interviews and conversations with people. And so there's some of those pieces of my old self that I get to bring in. But like I said, it's also given me a chance to kind of redefine myself as a professional, as a person, which has been fun too. Because I didn't anticipate doing that, but it's been cool to see like what other talents do I have? What other ways can I use the gifts that God has given me? What other ways can I take the skills that I'm learning in motherhood, organization, multitasking, empathy, like all of the things? And so it's like, it's almost become like a challenge to me of finding synergy between the roles that I'm occupying in my life, because efficiency to me is like a huge, huge thing. Like, not just how can we do something better, but like how can we do it in a way that makes sense and feels most comfortable for everyone, right? And so if I can take something I'm learning through motherhood, patience, for example, or through work, and implement that in motherhood, right? Like talking to my kids like people, that not just like little people who are always in my ear, but it's like I will tell my kids, hey, I'm really overwhelmed right now because of the noise level in our home. Can you guys help me calm down? And it's like I'm comfortable being assertive in a meeting, but like why can't I be assertive with my own kids without feeling like I'm going to hurt their feelings, right? And so it's just like little ways that I find to implement lessons that I've learned either in this role, or this role, to edify myself, and in the process building up the people around me too.
That's amazing. I just love listening to you and how insightful you
Thank
are.
you.
And
Thank
I know
you.
your husband is absolutely luckiest man to have you, and I'm sure he
Bless.
knows
Thank
it. I'm
you.
just saying, like
Thank
that's
you.
so beautiful the way you think, and how ambitiously you think, and I just love the strong woman presence, and I'm all for it. So
Thank
yeah,
you so
I'm cheering
much.
for you as well.
I really appreciate that. It's something I have like, I would say rebranded, because my strength, I suppose, what I sense you're picking up on is like the strength and kind of confident woman concept. For me, it started from a place of adversity, just like my upbringing, my background, my life. I didn't have parents who were also lawyers, and it wasn't the Cosby Show, like Bill Cosby and the wife. Like it wasn't that at all. It was very much, I told you, like I had to make a way and figure out things more or less on my own because I didn't have people leading the way. And so what started out as strength from adversity, I've also worked really hard to kind of transform into just strength. Because I also think it goes back to what I was saying before, like negative motivation that can become toxic and dangerous when everything I'm saying to myself to motivate myself to do better is rooted in resistance, perhaps. Basically, like either I'm running away from a negative feeling that I'm having, or I'm trying to prove a point to someone or myself. Like those are all forms of negative motivation that I used to have and where my strength used to come from. So it was like friction. My strength came from friction rather than flow. And so flow is momentum, right? That's propelling you forward, where you have otherwise the opposite of that would be strength from friction, where yes, you're moving forward, but like your energy is literally dissipating from you as you're pushing against the thing. And so I came to a point where I'm like, I want to be a strong woman. I want to be confident. I want to model that for my daughter, for my son, for the people around me, etc. But I need to find a better way to do it, because me being strong in this way is draining me. And so I appreciate you noting that, mentioning that, because it's something I've been really intentional to work on maintaining and exuding, but from a healthy place.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, to make it clear for myself, you use the hashtag League Life, right?
Yeah.
Is this to do with Surround, or this is another,
Yeah.
like something
So
else or additional,
it's
or
it is. So Surround is more or less like the brand, I guess, that I'm building. And I said, all of this has been so accidental. So I don't want to come on here and sound like I'm like coordinated and put together. Like the way that God works is like you take one step of faith and obedience, and he's like, and then I'll give you the rest of the details later. And so what started as me starting Surround, which I thought was just gonna be like a little nonprofit, like resource database, has turned into kind of this like worldwide network of people who I've gotten to connect with in this way. But League Life, my goal essentially is to create a media channel, whether it's a channel or like a media station or network, featuring League Life, because there are so many flavors and varieties of it. And you touched on it before too. League Life is not exclusive to basketball players. League Life is literally professional athletes in general, right? And with the globalization of sport happening, I also want to bring attention to just the way that sport is growing in other countries, the issues in sports. So for me, like my whole goal is to fix sports. And people often are like, you benefit from the institution of sport. Why are you trying to change it? Or why are you trying to, I'm like, it feels kind of counterintuitive or contradictory to people to see me advocate and be so vocal about the things I don't like about sport as a commercial industry. But for me, it's like, because I love sport is why I care, because it can be better. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to highlight the human side of sports. And so that's what League Life kind of hits on. And that whether that be the wives and partners, whether that be the athletes themselves, whether that be the kind of peripheral support networks that also don't get mentioned, the issues that athletes face. A lot of times you don't hear about the things that athletes experience because, oh, you make however much money. And I'm like, what, not only are less than 1% of the population in the world athletes, less than 1% of that 1% are LeBron James, right? And so it's like, yes, my partner or spouse plays professional sport, but that looks very different in this country, in this city, than it does in that country, in that city. And it's not a matter of his or her talent. There are, like I said, infrastructure, logistics, labor, legal issues relating to the quality of life that athletes and their families can have. And so kind of underlying some of that cute branding is me like being a Titan warrior advocate. But I also realize that you have to meet people where they are. And right now, a lot of people are in League Life, in the thick of League Life. And so we're going to start with that and just kind of give portraits, vignettes, and looks into what that experience is like for different athletes, for different families, and not only give people a place to like vocalize and share their stories, but then also for like partnerships with different brands, companies who are able to meet those needs. So I recently found out about like a global moving company, and they're like, we would love to talk to you more about the article that I did for front office sports. They're like, one of the things I mentioned in the article was, an athlete might get traded today from Phoenix, Arizona to New York. And I'm like, no one's thinking about the wife with the two kids who has an actual whole apartment to pack up and now move across the country. And what if my kids are in school? Like, what about school-age children? Now do we have to transfer school? Like, no one's thinking about that. All people are saying is like, oh, he got traded to New York. And meanwhile, you've
And then
got someone
suddenly the
else
next
back at
day he's
home.
there with the new team.
Yes, he's on the flight with the team because they're taking care of that element. But like, there's a whole person in life that they have to literally pick up and leave behind in that moment to yield to the needs of their career. And so someone read that article and they're like, we have a company like literally dedicated to helping professional athletes and their families move. And so it's like, that's something I would have never found out about. And so it's like, now I get to add them to like our database and make that resource available, but also to highlight an issue that no one knew existed, but that was impacting many, many, many people. And so the concept of League Life is fun, but also meant to be functional in that way.
That's absolutely like wonderful. I'm in awe of your work, but also at the
Thank
same
you.
time, I feel like you touched on a good point where you only know this life when you're in this life, and
Yep.
you only know the intricacies of the little things, the little, the hardships and the highs
Yeah.
of it. Like, I guess
Yeah.
the highs are easier to be seen from outside, but
Yes.
then
That's
on
right.
the other side is like everyday things and things that
Hmm.
in your article, I read it right away when you posted on your Instagram, and I
Thank
was like,
you.
wow, that's amazing. But that thing, it hit my mind as well, where you said about the he just
Yeah.
leaves after a trade. And this was very good timing, I think, for the trade with Luka Doncic's trade to the
Yes,
Lakers.
it was
I
right at
think
the
a
same
lot of
time.
people after, this was a historic trade, I would say, right? So then after that, I think that
Absolutely.
it like resonates a lot because it's like, oh, but yeah, he left, and then suddenly 24
Yeah.
hours later, he's in LA, like sitting on the bench next to LeBron, and then, but wait, where's everyone else? Like, where's his family?
And
So that I
it's
think
easy
perfect
when people
timing.
see, yeah, so people see Luca and they be like, oh, this is what you signed up for, like this is that. But like when I appreciate that I got a chance to basically highlight a different perspective because yes, maybe that's what the athlete signed up for. But I think it's a bit easier to empathize with the lifestyle of an athlete when you are thinking about the people who it impacts like immediately. So I say that because a lot of people also downplay any advocacy work that I've ever done for athletes because they're like, oh, it's the shut up and dribble concept. Like, you get to play a game for a living. Like, what are you complaining about? Where it's like, that's what that person does. But like, what about the people who are there supporting that person to give them the freedom to do that? And so I'm glad that the article in general took time to highlight that perspective and make it like I
It's
guess
important,
more
and
aware.
it also from coming from Lithuania, and that's a very big basketball country. And I
Mm-hmm.
honestly think that basketball wives are looked down upon because it's always been a misconception. Like
Yep.
deep down inside me, I'm like, oh, I'm so eager to show the other side of women,
Same.
and hence the podcast and the stories I'm trying to show because
Yeah.
the misconception is incredible. And then
Oh, it's so bad.
if you ever even try to say that, oh, you had a hard day, like I had a TikTok the other day, go like past, I always say past
Yes.
50,000 views, then you start
Yes.
getting shit. So
Yeah.
they're like, oh, you're so tired. Because there was like a game day vlog of like POV of a wife, right? And then oh, you're tired. Like you don't even know what hard work is. I'm like, do
Yep.
you even understand that? Like, and I'm
Exactly.
not talking like hard work. There's different levels of tiredness. There's hard work,
Yeah.
that labor that you go and dig holes and build houses, and then there's a different,
Yeah.
and like, and it
Yeah.
just feels like it looked down upon. And I'm like, but it's not all
Absolutely. And
about that.
so
Like,
that's why I'm obsessed with this podcast and just like the work that you're doing in general, because and this also goes to kind of the league life hashtag that I mentioned, because as a kind of not spit off, but like connected to that is the league wife. And so my goal is to, the way I always say it, highlight women who the least interesting thing about her is that she's married to an athlete, because I think that
that's
gets
it.
made the core part of our personality, which is fine. Like, obviously, I support you. I love that that's what you do. That's what you chose to do. And I happen to fall in love with you. That's the other thing. So it's like giving people a look into this life, because the only basically platform that I think sports wives get is the WAGs, right? Like, I'm here to, just be a figure on his or her
Just
arm. Yeah. To
carry
just,
my
yeah.
5K bag, and
And if
just
that's you, like, love that for you. If you love that life, live it, do it. But let's also not negate that there are an entire demographic of women in that group that are not that way either. And so it's like, how come that version of wives gets to lead the narrative of not only like what we are perceived as, but by us sharing stories, by us sharing daily vlogs, it's like you're giving people like, this is actually hard. Can
yeah.
you imagine literally
I
moving
feel like
every
also,
year,
sorry,
like
go.
everything? Yeah, I was like, we're like, ah. It's like just giving people clear insight into what this actually requires. It's quite lonely. It's disorienting. It's frustrating. It's challenging. Like all those like and duality, right? I told you I'm an and girl. Yes, I can have a life that's very unique and different and maybe perceived as aspirational to some people, and it can be hard. Why can't those two things coexist? And so part of what I feel like talking about these things also helps do is, again, highlight the human side of sports, but highlighting the duality of we do live a cool lifestyle, but that doesn't come without its own challenges. The same way, like you said, maybe your spouse wakes up and goes and builds houses. I'm sure, like, why is your suffering more admirable? Because it looks different than mine. Like, just because the world glamorizes my version of suffering doesn't mean that it's any less difficult. And so I feel like it's so important to have conversations like this.
Absolutely. But I have two things to say so about the wife and the stereotype sort of look. But I also think that why can't we be both? Why can't we be, hardworking and doing things. But yes, I like to carry a flag.
And
I said it like
exactly,
that, but
literally,
I like to, this game day is the only place, especially living in Japan, the only place that I can, wear
yes.
jeans every day. I'm wearing leggings because of the
Literally, I'm
flag.
a human napkin every day.
Right? So I'm like, this is
Yes.
also my, like, I always said this, like, I will always dress up and try to look my best and feel my best, because that, when I feel like when
Yeah.
you put effort, you feel different as well.
Yes.
But it's
Totally.
for me, but it's also out of respect for my husband, because
I agree.
it's why do they get different salaries to compared to I don't know, a builder? We've been
Yeah.
using that
Yeah.
example. It's
Labor.
because there's a lot more that goes into it, right? It's not just
Hmm.
you go in 9 to 5 and you leave. You literally
Hmm.
invested. Your family's invested in this mentally, and
Hmm.
obviously him physically. But then for
Yeah.
his physical work, everyone needs to work around him. So like I cook
Yeah.
for my family quite a lot.
Yep.
So that's another
Same.
thing that there are things that, like, little things that, yes, I chose this life because, like you said, I chose to
Yeah.
fall in love, or I fall in love. I don't know if I
Sorry.
choose to fall
Right.
in love, maybe not really, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it
Right. Right.
just
Right.
happened to be that. And now, like,
Yeah.
the misconception that I talked about before is that, oh, but yeah, you chose this, so this, you should know what you're getting into, and like, why are you complaining? But it's not, like I said, it can be good and it can be bad at the same time. Like,
Hmm.
every
Yeah.
high has its sort of, because
Yes.
I'm the same. I feel so, especially in Japan. Like, I think living in Europe, since I'm from
Yes.
Lithuania, like, it's, you're within a few hour flight, so it's not too
Yeah.
bad. And I went to international school, so my friends are all over,
Hmm.
and it's easier to connect. While
Yeah.
being in Japan, I literally, like, lonely
Like.
is a state of mind. Like, this is
Hmm. It's
every day.
it's like literally isolating. Hmm.
Yes, and me, I'm a person. Well, first, I like to yap, but I love,
Same. Surprise.
I need the human connection, And
Yeah.
yes, I have my husband, I have my kids, but that's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Like, I hope to have them forever. You know what I mean? So that's like,
Amen.
and
Yeah.
every day. So I need to go have a coffee, just, yes, with myself sometimes, but like, just to have
Sure.
that, even one person outside my
Hmm.
family that I can, like, just talk to, and it would just be,
Yep.
like, it
Yep.
would just
And
make
and
my day.
also
And
somebody who, one, isn't judging you either positively or negatively, because you get it from both sides. So we're talking about people who view our lifestyle from the outside and say, oh, like, you have no space to complain because this and this, like, your life is whatever they think our life is. But then you also have people who, like, want to connect with you, want to talk, but only to kind of, it's like voyeurism almost, where they're like, so what do you like to, like, it's like they're interested in a very, like, strange way. Like, are you
yeah,
actually trying to connect with me, or are you just, like, really fascinated by our life? Because that also can feel off-putting or isolating too, because it's like, I need human connection and you're trying to connect with my story. And those two things
yeah,
are very different. I'm not my story, I'm not my circumstance, I'm not the situation I'm in right now. Like, that is a part of my life. But, like, acknowledging the underlying part that you mentioned, where it's so 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 difficult not only to, like, avoid the physical isolation that happens, whether it be in a place like Japan, or it's, I know it feels similar for a lot of people who come from the US and go to Europe, because you don't have people within an hour's drive or whatever. And so it's the same concept. But the other piece of that is, like, yes, maybe there are other wives or spouses on the team, but they might not be here next year. I might not be here next year. So it almost feels like, I don't know if it's worth the work of the emotional work
oh my
of
gosh,
connecting
yes.
with people. And so then it turns into a cycle of just, like, you can, like, slowly but surely, like, cutting yourself off from the world, because you're like, I don't want to go out and connect with people, because now, like, it's not gonna last. Or I have kids. The last thing I have time to do is, like, go grab coffee every day and, like, gallivant around the city because we're in Italy. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other piece of it. Like, yeah, okay, yes, we live in a really cool place, but very, very infrequently do I get to experience it in the way that you would as a tourist or whatever that might be, because I have to do real life here. I tell people that all the time, like, oh my gosh, you live blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, have you thought about what it's like trying to find laundry detergent on a Sunday afternoon? Like, no, you haven't. You get to just go to Target and call it a day. Like, little things you
That's
don't
so
think
true.
about. And even when we moved to Turkey, I'm like, what is the equivalent of, like, this baby formula that we would get in the States here in Turkey? I'm like, I'm literally just staring at like the store. Little things that take more emotional, mental energy um, to just exist, right? And so much less connect with other people, much less connect with your spouse, etc. And so I think there's a lot of like invisible labor that happens with this role as a sports wife that I also feel needs to be talked about more, not because people don't know it exists, but so that people don't feel like you're the only person who that's happening to. It feels the thing with isolation is like it can feel like I'm the only one. And so there might also be shame and like, oh, all these other women are handling WAG life well, and I'm over here like, oh. And it's like, no, sweets, we're all struggling. And so want to just make that clear too, giving voice to some of these things so that other women who need it can empathize, and other people who might be quick to judge can sympathize.
That's so true. That's so true. I feel like
Yeah.
then even my very good friends from back in the day, let's say in the day, whatever, like, they would not, like, I would be like, oh my God, we might be moving again. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm like,
Where? Yeah.
oh, like, I don't want to sound ungrateful because if I say, oh my God, we're
Yes.
moving again, they're like, what? You don't want to move to another, like, this is amazing. And I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
am the person who always gets excited for things like that because I'm like, look, yes, Brock is
Yeah.
like, yeah, I could stay. For me, I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
But
Where
at
to
the same
next?
time, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, especially when the kids are here now, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's just a lot. And then I tend to talk about moving and things like that to like my fellow basketball wives who I talk to,
Mm-hmm.
because then I know that you don't have to explain things.
Yes.
You just don't have to make yourself clear about things. You're like, oh, I just feel
Yes.
sad. No, she's not going to tell you, yeah, but your husband is making this
Yeah,
much money.
but
Why are you sad? Like, or you know
yes.
what I mean. So
A
like, it's
hundred
sort of,
percent.
yeah, I feel like then, yeah, I just tend to then talk to people who know our way
Mm-hmm.
we live.
Yeah. That's why I say our experience is unique but not uncommon. And I think that best describes it. Oh. Okay. Yeah, it's unique but not uncommon because it's foreign to most people, but it's like the people who get it. And I think there are more spaces I see, like at least popping up on social media, where women are trying to create community. Like sports wives are trying to create more community, whether that be like through social media or like in real time Bible studies, things like that. I've seen a decent amount of those things growing, but I'm excited and hopeful for the future for there to be like actual infrastructure in place. That's why I said I'm like all about efficiency. Like I love me a good social media group, but at the end of the day, like I need concrete resources. I need to be able to like go to a website and see like in the city that I'm moving to next year, what nannies exist, what hair salons are there, what are vegan grocery stores because I have health restrictions. Like I need the concrete things to make league life less chaotic, less stressful, to take some of that like mental
Weight off.
burden off of the transition, because at the end of the day, moving and transitioning by yourself or with children is going to be labor. That's going to be work. That's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do. Even if you're used to it, doesn't mean it's not hard. And so it's like if we can help each other, help women, help other athletes and sports families with like the information piece, or kind of just having it all centrally and readily accessible, I feel like that would go a long way.
Absolutely. You know what? I'll tell you my little idea that I had since we played in
Yes.
Turkey as well, and we lived there for 3 years. But um, I remember because we played in Turkey 2 years and moved to Spain, Valencia for a year, and then moved back to Turkey, Istanbul. And
Okay.
I feel like, oh my God, for me, a lot of this life came with, there's so much stuff that we, not so much, but like stuff that we acquire over a year or two,
Oh my gosh, yes.
off season, especially with kids. And then you don't take it all with you. Or some
Mm-hmm.
people I know move, but I've heard of a company in Europe, and maybe now it's been different. That like, but the price of moving, it doesn't
Oh
like
yeah.
my stuff is it's not that expensive. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
has to be a
Like it's a
balance of like that
toaster.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
toaster, a lamp, or
Some
kids crib,
appliances,
like,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
then you want me to pay 3,000 euros to
Yeah.
move it. I'm like, I can buy 10 when
Like
I
not
go to
worth
another
it.
country.
Yeah.
But then looking from perspective of, a more environmentally friendly, and that, like, I think me and Brock counted the other day that we had like 7 Christmas trees in our life, like together.
Yeah, that's
And
so
I'm like,
valid.
but people don't need 7 Christmas trees over 10 years. You know? That I had, like, when you're talking about this, making it easier,
Yeah.
I've always had an idea of like talking to different clubs, like, let's say
Yes, I
a
agree.
big league like your league, right? That would be easy, I think, because there's like, a whole connection with
Yeah.
shareholders and teams and whatever. To like, look, can we have a certain place where wives or players, but mostly there would be wives if they, have a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Single guy probably wouldn't even have the Christmas tree, but you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Then when you're leaving, you just pack it
Yes.
all, give it to the club, and write here, Christmas tree, this,
Yeah.
and then the new season, the first month, first come, first
Yeah.
serve, and look, you
100%.
go in there in that little place, storage, whatever, and say
Yep.
like, here, I'll have this, I'll have that. And that would be like, I think this idea, no, I mean, I love it because it's my idea, but
You're like, I
I'm
think it's
sure that there's
brilliant.
a
I
lot
do
of people
too, though. I really
a lot
do.
of people would have thought about it, because every time I pack up and I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm not a hoarder. I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder, but like I have really hard time throwing things out, especially when they're
It's
in
just,
good condition.
yeah,
So
it's like
I'm
we
like,
paid
okay,
money for
whatever
this. It's
works.
valuable. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then I try to look for giving it away, and there are places it's easier to do it. In Japan, it's like, it's different. Like you can give some stuff
100%.
away, some not, whatever. But I feel like that would be just like adding on to, a little bit of a more environmentally
100%.
friendly view, but also making things easier. Like, why do you need to spend, I don't know, an extra grand a year for
Yep.
things? Because we come to a place, we buy a carpet, we buy this just to make
Same.
things feel like home. So,
Yep.
and the carpet
Yep.
after 10 months use, I'm not, I don't mind. I'll use your
Yeah.
carpet. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not like, I know some people maybe would be like someone else, but I'm not like that. I'm like, look, vacuum the
And
carpet right
yeah,
now.
I promise I have considered the same thing. Like that's why I mentioned surround. Like surround started as kind of this just like functional, not sustainable, but just yes, sports sustainability is really what it is technically. But it just makes sense because as you're describing, it's not only little things like that, but say for instance we're coming back to the same country at least. So like you mentioned, like we played in Turkey, different cities, but all around Turkey. That same place that I can go and drop off the like extra bedroom set that we bought, or the carpet. I can also like go store at least four of our suitcases of like overseas stuff, like clothes I know I'm not gonna wear at home, things maybe that the kids are not gonna need until next year, whatever that might be. But just like you have like your own little storage unit, and I know I'm coming back to Turkey, and like you just ship it to the next, like they can ship it to the next city the same way you can send mail or packages. Like
Yeah.
it's just this concept. It's the logistics piece of it. So I mentioned lifestyle, labor, logistics are the three buckets that I identified people have the most issues in. And so this comes down to the logistics because it's like it doesn't, not only does it not flow well, it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, in no other world does anyone buy 7 Christmas trees. I don't care how much money I have. Like it's not about that. It's like that doesn't make
It's not about
sense.
that. Absolutely.
That
Because
doesn't make
like,
sense.
yeah, people will be like, why can't you? Well, yeah, I can. But the point
Yeah,
of
it's not
working hard
that.
is the
It's
point
like
of having money, not spending it.
spending it. Exactly. And I feel like something like that, especially in a country, so because I've considered this too, I'm like, what would be a good like pilot country to try this in? Um, because I also have identified maybe certain clubs, teams, leagues, and it really just takes buy-in from organizations, whether that's specific clubs or like the league itself. But maybe we can brainstorm this a little bit later, off the
I was
record.
thinking the same. I feel like we're onto something.
Yeah.
I have a few contacts in EuroLeague. I've worked around some basketball clubs. I feel like we can connect this, and then plus we have such a big community of basketball wives, which
Yep.
I I mean I know we'll find some like-minded
For
women,
sure. For
because
sure.
it's just good for everyone. Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's literally no harm for anyone. It's just efficient. Like I said, it takes another step out of the way, and we all save money. Why not?
And to be honest, you can make a business case for it too, because I know how many times are new players coming to teams and being like, "Hey, we want a budget for new furniture." Go to the little the little store that we had. Like, go to the little market,
Check out.
check there first. Yeah, check there first. And like, truly, if nothing like works, like or fits your fancy, then we can talk about like budgeting for additional things. But even from a team perspective, because I told you I'm all about efficiency. I'm like, how many people can this solve a problem for? Because I mean, if it solves a problem for sports wives, you have very little people who care other than the wives. If it solves a problem for the athletes and their wives, people might listen. If it solves a problem for the athlete, the wives, and the team, okay, maybe now we're in it. So it's like
That's
I'm
true.
all about
That's
like maximizing the value of the solution too. And so I think it actually could be really meaningful and useful.
okay. So we have maybe we have an upcoming addition to
Stay
surround
tuned.
and that too. A little
Yeah, for
environmentally
sure.
friendly piece.
I actually love that though. That's really good.
Well, we've been talking here for a while, but I do have another question that I
Mhm.
think it's
Yes.
towards the end to wrap it up. But what advice would you give someone who is new to basketball like that?
Oh my. Um, that's a really, really hard one. Not because it's hard to give advice, because there's so many things I would say. Because I even think about this question for like old me, like what would I have done differently, or what would have made this more meaningful. I think the very first question that I know a lot of people are confronted with is, do I move with my person, right? Like, do I? Because if you have a couple where one person maybe is a teacher and the other person works at a corporation, rarely are you faced with the question of, do I have to quit my job for her? Do I have to quit my job for him? Like, that's not as frequent of a like conversation I think that couples have to face. There obviously are adjustments maybe that they have to make, but in the context of sports relationships, that's like the first question you have to ask. Whether you live in the States or overseas, like whether you are domestic or you're overseas, I won't even say the States, but like if my husband plays, I told you, in Phoenix and I live in New York, that is a real question where it's like, do I quit what I have to go be with this person? A lot of people, the only question they're thinking about is like, is the money worth it? Like, is this other person making enough money to justify it? My first piece of advice would be to take that decision very seriously. One, because resentment can build in relationships very easily. And what sounded like a good idea at the time, what sounded romantic at the time, I'm going to leave what I have and follow him across the world. Like when you're across the world in a tiny town in Italy and literally no one talks your language, like you don't speak the language, you have no community,
And
you're going
it's
to be
not the
really,
Italian
really,
dream you saw in
yeah,
movies.
like, it's not Lisa McGuire. Like this is not like, just globetrotting, and it's amazing. And so one, to be realistic and honest with yourself about what it is that's important and valuable to you as a individual person. Kind of having that criteria very clearly set out, because if the goals that you have for yourself require you to be stationary somewhere, that's a hard sacrifice, but one that you might want to make for yourself rather than making the sacrifice early for another person. So just the first piece of advice would be, one, being clear about like the dynamics of your relationship, right? Like, am I going to be where you are? Are you going to be where I am? And not making that decision lightly. Two, do not self isolate, even though it's the easier thing to do in this lifestyle. Like we mentioned, it's easier not to connect with people because you might not see them. It's easier to kind of just be insular and yield to, hey, we move and it is what it is. But I would encourage people to be active about building relationships with other people, whether that is other sports wives, or something that's been meaningful for me is building connections with people in the place that I live. So I have like a group of Japanese mom friends who invited me into their little circle because like our kids go to daycare together. Do I speak Japanese? Absolutely not. Working on it, but like, do I speak Japanese? No. But like, finding ways to navigate the language barrier, that's a small sacrifice for community if that's something that you know is important, right? And so, like, there are a couple words maybe that I know, maybe some of them know English, maybe there's a mom in the group who does speak English. So it's like, we make it work, but I'm just thinking back, like, literally last week, they invited us over to the house and all the kids were playing, and I just was like, that was the first time that I'd ever genuinely connected with someone in the like local place that we were at. And so I encourage more people to do that. Like, be fully present where you are, I guess is how I will put it. I'll just leave it at those two. First, don't make the decision lightly to move if that's what you do, because your goals, your dreams, the things that are important to you matter. And if they can't be achieved by being away from like your home spot, then don't do that. But if you do make the decision to follow your spouse and still pursue other things, make sure you are well supported, And that includes family. I know a lot of people struggle with family support too because people judge their lives like, oh, he or she doesn't have a real job. And it's like, why are you following this person here? And it's like, do you have a real job, Sally? Like, you know what I mean? It's like people are so quick to judge. And
I love
so making sure you're well supported, not only family wise, but locally, having some kind of community, and then tapping into some of the like social networks that exist for sports wives as well. And then maybe the last piece, because you said it's someone who's new to this, find you like, I don't know, a veteran, an OG, a big sis, like whatever that looks like to you. Find you someone who literally has been in it longer than you have, simply for the fact that they're not going to judge you for feeling what you feel, so that you can be validated in what you're experiencing emotionally, so that you can have support. Whether that's like, hey, I really wish I could, connect better with my husband, but he's always on the road. Like, has that happened to you ever? Like, small things to big things. So it comes down to community support, and then being really clear on what it is that you need to thrive as an individual person in your role as a sports wife or partner. I'll leave it at that.
That's amazing. I honestly wish I would have heard some of these things when I left with
Same.
Brock and we started living in Turkey, because I remember just now looking back, like I don't like the word regret and I don't use it a
I
lot,
agree.
but there are sort of things that I wish would have grown up and had a wiser insight on
Yeah, just spent more
13.
time thinking about. Exactly. That's literally all it is. Like, I wish I would have put more thought into decision making than I did in
But for me,
the
leaving
past.
was not the actual thing because we lived with him already, and that was. But for
Mm-hmm.
me now, looking back, I kind of not wished it away, but I was like,
Mm.
not living in the moment. That's what you
I suppose
mentioned.
I'd
And
be fully present where you are. Mm-hmm.
yes,
That's
and
right.
I was still learning things that, from our experience, they were like great places. We were so lucky to live in amazing places around Europe. We also lived in
Yeah.
Monaco, like you did, and lived in Turkey, and lived in Spain, and lived in
Valencia.
France. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then, but there's living situation. I feel like there's a family in your relationship, but then there's also basketball. And if
Yes.
any of these things are not
Mm.
working, it's like
That's so
I
good.
feel like I'm like, "Oh, this is not good enough." While like I should have
Mm-hmm.
focused more on things that are working. So, like Monaco, as example, was like amazing for me because I started back working with basketball
Yeah.
news. That was after the first baby. I was like,
So
oh my God,
cool.
I was living a dream, living in Monaco, as you know, don't
Yeah.
want to stay there.
Top tier.
And then, but then basketball was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not okay
Yeah.
because, Brock was underlooked and there was things that it was not the right fit for the team, for the coach, whatever.
Mm-hmm. That's
And then
so
him
good. Yeah.
struggling, even though he understands, and at that point he was already wiser than, a 24 or 5-year-old. But like I feel like he was still struggling. And
Yeah.
seeing him struggling, and then I'll just go, be like mad at the world sometimes. And I'm like, God, you
Mm-hmm.
can hear like everything else is good,
Yes. Yeah.
And sort of like having that like kind of balance in your head, try to understand that not
It's
all
really
the time
good.
everything is amazing, like
Mm-hmm.
now in Japan, like I always try to have this perspective of like different bubbles, and now in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
Brock's career individual is going great,
Going
team
great.
wise
Team,
is not
not
very
so
good.
much.
So like, but then
Yeah.
but then being in Japan, that's another thing of playing basketball in Japan. It's like the stress is not there, like playing in your league
Yes.
when the team is doing bad but you're doing good. It's like, oh, you're are you the problem? But here is not like,
Yes.
and obviously he is
Totally
not a
different.
problem. It's just some other things. And
I
but then
understand.
we live in Japan, kids. Math loves the school. Food is great.
Yep.
It's a safe country. It's like I'm like trying to see like a bigger picture. Well, I
Yes. More
wish I
comprehensive.
would have
Mm-hmm.
been able, but able to see this back when I was younger and appreciate
Yeah.
it more as it is, and that it comes with different sort of different ups and downs, and it still
That's
can be a
really, really
positive
good.
experience overall. Because now I look back and
Yeah.
I'm like, I wish I was just enjoyed every day. Like I would just
Same.
disassociate myself from basketball more, because
Yeah.
I love basketball, and primarily before Brock he loves saying that I love basketball more than him, because like it's I'm crazy about it since I was a kid, and it's always
Yeah.
like it led me to my career choices and whatnot, and then him seeing the love of your life playing and being either
Yeah.
in a bad place, and then you're
Yeah.
like, he's not getting enough minutes, he's not. And then
Hmm.
as a wife, a coach and a ref and
Literally.
all those things that we
Literally.
are,
Yep.
it's like
Yes.
it's really hard to disassociate myself from
Hmm.
all this, because like first it's like your person is playing the sport
Hmm.
that you love and you want him to do good, and this is your life now. And it's
Yeah.
like I wish I would have, sort of, but as I said, it comes with age, and it comes with age, like not,
Agree.
yeah. You know what I mean? Not with age, because we're so young,
We're
amazing,
really
we're
young.
thriving.
No,
But you know
you're
what I
right
mean?
though. It's
Like it's
like
why
that's valid.
it's
Wisdom,
just experiences add a bit more wise
context
on top of
to,
everything.
yeah, experiences add context to your conception of one, what exists and what's possible, which means like that shapes your reality, right? And so I totally, totally agree with you. One, to kind of compartmentalize, I suppose, the sources of joy that you get from this lifestyle, because part of it can be we live in a great place, part of it can be basketball itself, the other part of it can be something wholly different for you. But I also agree that like it almost feels like in this role, it's our job to like fix all the things that are the problem so that our spouse or person can like continue to thrive. And so it's like, hey, you are really, struggling with your teammates. Like, what do we need to do to fix that? Or like, all you need to do is get more shots at, like you said, being the coach, being the this playing kind of just jack of all trades to make sure that like things are going well for your person. Because if things are going well for your person, then things are going well for you too, right? Because it's almost like, this is so dramatic, but like you are at the mercy of their reality, right? Whether or not I'm having a great day, if you're coming off a 10 loss streak, that's going to impact me, right? And so I need to be mindful of what my person is going through, which I feel like automatically sends us into like fixing mode rather than
Yeah.
what you mentioned. Being present, I feel like goes a long way. And then just taking it in more, because I also agree with you. Like looking back in times past, I wish I would have enjoyed the journey, I guess, of it more rather than trying to get to the next, what's the next place we're going to be at? Like trying to be anticipatory so that I could either prepare or be excited for something other than right now. And I don't think it wasn't until I had kids, even, which sounds crazy, that I even tapped into like really exploring the places we lived. Because like with kids, you're like, if I stay in this house another second, I'm gonna lose my mind. So like, let's go somewhere, let's do something. And I'm like, I had X amount of years before even having kids that I could have literally been like jet setting. I could have been here. I could have been enjoying the places that we lived more, right? Versus just like being there and that was it. And so I think that's a really, really, really great perspective to share as well.
All right. Well, I think that's a great insight. And like I said, I wish I would have heard it when I
Hmm.
was so a bit younger into my WAG life. But
Last year.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
But
man.
I hope that, our younger girlies are,
Yes.
yeah. And if maybe they have some advice to
Yeah.
share with us. So anyone who's listening, guys,
Yeah,
this
for
is,
sure.
this is a free space. We're all here to take it in and don't
Yeah.
judge, and,
Yeah,
um, just share your
for sure.
journey. And I hope we just keep encouraging each other and find that,
Same.
that that little piece what's missing from far away around
Yeah,
us.
for sure. I so appreciate you one inviting me to have the conversation. I'm happy we randomly ran into each other on the at the basketball game the other day, and I really look forward to one just seeing the ways that just simple conversation like this can impact the community of women that we're in, and just kind of seeing what more is in store for you. I'm excited for you.
And same, I'm very happy. I'm very happy we did this. Your insights on,
Thanks.
relationships and business and basketball life. And I think that you're onto a really cool path. And I'll definitely be following your journey. And yeah, it's amazing things you're doing. It's wonderful.
Thank
I'm
you. I'm
very
gonna I'm
happy.
gonna come find you in Japan and we'll hang out in real life.
Yes. Yes, please.
For
That would
sure.
be amazing. That would be amazing. I think, yeah, if we can get plan that, that would be perfect.
Would love it. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for our listeners. And yeah, please comment. And I'm
Awesome.
sure Bria and me will answer any questions that may
Anything.
be.
Open book
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
tell them where they can find you, so
Oh,
we can all
okay.
connect.
Yes. I am on TikTok, Instagram. We'll just leave it at that at Bria Clem, BriaClemm. And yeah, follow our journey. You can see the twins, see the funny shenanigans they're up to. And I hope to share more of kind of lifestyle and business tips as well, for people who are wanting to navigate motherhood, marriage, and making money in your career. Yeah.
Very important. I'm all ears. Thank you, Bria.
Thanks.